Alright, hey guys, what's going on? I got Julien here with me. He came second at Corners State Championships just yesterday. How you going, Julien?
Hey man, I'm going good. How are you going?
Yeah, not bad. Just
Cool,
trying to
cool.
enjoy the Easter weekend.
Yep, same.
I think everyone's trying to do that.
Yep.
Alright, first things first, what did you think of the event?
I think the event went pretty well. It was a bit crowded at certain times, but I think like throughout the day it got a bit better because like when you started moving up to like the top tables and stuff, it seemed like there was a bit more space for whatever reason. But yeah, um, I think overall it started out well, and I think it ended well as well.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, but one hard thing about Corner is I think we had 38 people playing that day, and it's not a very big
Yeah,
store to play in, which
yeah,
is sort
that's
of
right.
a bit of a downer, but
Yeah,
still a good place to play.
yeah.
All right, maybe we'll just have a quick look at your deck list, and maybe just run us through that, and what made you decide to run, what did we call it, Durbo Discard?
Durable Tiscard, yeah. Well, it's just a play on the name of like just that old ice deck. But the idea is just playing like an Ice Fire deck with like the FF6 package because everyone kind of I think it's been doing the rounds here and there, so like people can see like how strong an FF6 package is. They will have the Ice Fire sort of like the backup line, and you have the Setzer, the Gastallion Seed, the Edgar, and suddenly your locks are always gonna be discarding one, even if he enters with the only forward. There's it hardly ever kind of fizzles because unless they're playing like backup destruction, which is doesn't seem to be too common, at least from what I've seen. Or most people don't really have the chance to sort of respond to it. So yeah, it almost always happens to be like comes in, discards one. And then if you add like a Belias on top or a Goblin on top, um, suddenly they're just discarding two, taking a point of damage, and then they're just like, oh well, my game plan's kind of undone. So I was kind of going for that route with this deck.
Yeah, okay, well, that sounds good. Let's just go through a couple of the choices you made here. Like,
Yep.
the card that everybody says is bad, Duncan.
Well, originally from testing, I think Duncan is originally there because I was expecting quite a few fire water decks, the ones that were running the Zidane and the Hasting him in kind of strat. So I had a Duncan in there just to have another like sort of option to cleanly sort of remove Zidane without without having to like exert too many cards and stuff like that. So when he comes in, he's just like a big 8k forward. They can just sit there for a while because they're not really going to end up trying to sort of like get over him when they've expended quite a few cards just to like get the Zidane combo going off. So it just sits there for a while, and then you've got just a few other options as well, just like Sid Reigns or Cloud and stuff like that. So those are just like additional burn options.
Yep, okay, and anything that sort of overperformed or underperformed in the list? Or,
I think personally, I really liked Dark Fina. So she's actually come and sort of like saved my height a few times. So um, basically at 5 damage, you just drop the Dark Fina, and then you get to search for like a Phoenix. You get to play it in, and then you get to pick something like a Sid Reigns or a Lock from your break zone and just play here in. And suddenly you've just like have two forwards in the field. One's really big, and you've probably gotten rid of one or two guys, or one guy and a card in hand if you've taken back like a lock. Um, the other really good thing I like about Dark Fina is that because she's really big, she's like 10k with Duke Lark, and she also costs 7. So it tends to sort of make it really hard to remove because people here seem to enjoy playing stuff like Yotsu or Idia and stuff like that, where there's a certain like cost restriction on the card. So so Dark Fina just kind of just like when she comes in, she just sits there until you kind of just build your board around, and you know, so you just slowly kind of poke with the rest because you know that they don't really have like a really sort of clean answer to get rid of Dark Fina.
Yeah.
What other cards overperformed? I think definitely Kuja. So originally when I was testing this deck, I only had like one Kuja in the deck, but from experience, just having two is really nice because it means that you get to pitch the first one, to, just like put it in the break zone, and you can like break one of the ice backups and take it back later.
Yeah, I
The
suppose, did you get
second
much
one,
value out of like replaying setzers and stuff like that? Breaking that
I
in
didn't
with
get too
Kuja?
much. I didn't get too much values replaying those cards, but I got more value like being able to sack the Kuja just to have another forward, like either as a blocker or just as to have another finisher. Just to like disable a blocker and then just swing with everyone else. Because sometimes you just have that option available to you.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
So definitely having two Kujas was great because like at one it felt like I didn't draw into him enough, or sometimes he just get knocked into the X burst zone and I just went like, well, I can't really like reuse my backups, or I can't really leave him in the break zone early. So yeah, definitely the changes to two was great.
okay, and just looking at a lot of the list, there's a lot of one-offs in there. How do you think they sort of felt? Were they just sort of
Yeah,
tech choices, or just
yeah, a lot of
sort
them
of?
were choices because like so originally, I had two Sabins in there, but I decided to just leave like one Sabin and one Duncan in there, just in case, because like Sabin is just a cheap forward that can sometimes like burn a Viking or a Zidane or something if he ever gets going. So there's that, and then you can always combo him with Duncan or Sid Rain. So I just left a one-off in there. Originally, it was actually two of those Sabins instead of one Sabin and one Duncan. Sid Reigns, I would have liked to find a slot for one more, but I think the deck, like the forward line is just really tight. So, just I was only able to find a slot for one Sid Reigns. The Vayne was originally something I was testing with like Earth Wind decks, and I found that like if you drop the Vayne at the right time, you can kind of disable their whole forward line. So, for example, like a lot of them played stuff like Camlanot, Cecil, Veritas, Fina. So when you have like the Vayne on the field at the right time, it just kind of just keeps them down, and they can't really do anything about that besides like a Diablo's reactivation or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
so
you're
that's why.
forcing them to sort of deal with that while you
Yeah.
get your other presence out, and then I suppose
No, it's not so much that, right? Because the deck actually has trouble dealing with like big 9K forwards because your biggest burn is about 8,000 with Phoenix, and your only way to burn a 9,000 would be to wait to get a 6 damage and then try and play the Cloud. So that's a bit of a really risky strategy, which I didn't really want to sort of go down. So the Vayne is just like there to stop like the 5 CP 9K guys.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And did you find yourself pulling off his mill ability at all, or is he just sort of mainly there just for that EX and the 5 CP 9K body?
I actually pulled off the mill once. I pulled off the mill ability once because, in the words of the great Kageyama, if those 10 cards are not cards you like, if you mill those 10 cards, it's fine because it's cards you'll never reach at the end anyway. Depending on how you use the mill ability. So, I think it's personally great because like he just comes in, he just burns something. It makes him a lot like sort of like harder to remove because like if you have enough cards in your deck, you can just like sort of toss those 10 cards and then remove something, have a big 9K guy at the beginning of the next turn to attack or block or just stuff like that, and hopefully at that point you're probably about close to closing off the game.
Yeah, okay.
But otherwise, I think a lot of the times you can just play a card and burn something for 7K because 7K seems to be a really nice number. You add like probably like 4 damage as well. So when you add 4 damage as well, the Emperor backup is just really good because there was a game where I used that Emperor backup and 4 damage taken to stop a Setzer from blocking. So I would not have one of my guys down frozen, and I just like sort of swung for game. That was like game 4 of the Swiss, I think.
Okay.
Yep.
And just going into the backup line, like obviously you're running, the 6, so you got the Edgar, Banana Sid, Setzer.
Yep.
Duke Lugs obviously lit there just to push the undercurve ice forwards up a little bit.
Yep.
You just went through Emperor, so you just explained why he's pretty good there. Irvine, is that just for stack burn and sort of getting rid of a little bit of the early rush?
Yep. So Irvine was actually quite useful when I had to deal with the people playing Fire or Water, because if they play like an Archangel HM, I could just like stop his attack or something and just burn him the next turn with the Irvine. So I thought that was pretty good value. Originally, I actually had a backup BB in that slot, but then I realized like when I was running the deck list in the morning, I said, wait, I had a forward VV. I can't put this backup VV in my deck. So I actually like changed him out for an Irvine at the last minute. It was either him or a Black Waltz 2, because I felt like Black Waltz 2's damage was a lot lesser, so I didn't. At the end of the day, I think it really didn't matter, because Black Waltz 2 would be an extra X, but the damage was a lot more variable.
Yep.
Yeah. As for the backup line, so I feel like 3 Edgars is a must. 3 Gestadians is a must as well, because for the main reason is that if you're running that FF6 package, you kind of want to have at least 2 backups in your backup slot, and Edgar is what makes Lock a little bit unfair, because he comes in at like 7k. If you have the Duke Lock, he's like 8k, and then if you have the Edgar, you can always sort of like pump him to 9k, and suddenly he's just up trading with all these other 9ks. Yeah. And it's fine if he dies, because you can play the Phoenix and take him back again. So in general, unless you're facing like Yuna H decks, I think it was fine just to go with that route. And then like if you also have like the lease, suddenly the lock is just like a 10k or an 11k as well. So most people don't really expect that. Suddenly it's like 5 damage. Your guys are just really big because you have the Dark Fina. You brought a Phoenix to kill something, and you brought back either a lock or you played a lease. And suddenly you got like a 12k Dark Fina. Like what do you do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I suppose it's also good with the lock, because you're generally getting your value out of. You generally got to play him when you get the discard. So, and then if you're trading him up with bigger dudes on the other side, you're just sort of winning all round there.
Yeah. So lock is generally one of those forwards where people just go like, do I block him or do I not? Because they don't want to lose the card in the hand, because that just messes up their game plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, it's always like when you attack people in like an 8k lock that can go up to 9k, you just go like, do you want to trade your forward? So it's like you have to play. I think you have to play at that level where you're just forcing your opponents to sort of like choose one thing to lose.
Yeah.
And
so
I think that's just really important. That's why like. Yeah, exactly right. So that's why I think the lock being able to go up to 9k is kind of really important. That's why you need that Edgar, on top of being like an additional Cat 6 character to sort of empower Lock's discard ability. Gestadian sit at 3, I think, is also a must, because you're not running the forward Setzer anymore, so your sort of like consistency will have taken a hit because you're playing the backup Setzer. Backup Setzer at 2 is fine, because he's largely a card you want to see like quite early on, so that you can sort of like just play him for free, like toss like a Cat 6 forward, add another card, and then play the Setzer, take your Cat 6 forward back. So then that leaves one Cat 6 backup for you. As an X-Verse, I feel like he's not overly valuable. Like when it does proc, sometimes it's nice, but if you hit it early game, generally you don't have a Cat 6 character in your break zone, and you just go like, oh, okay, sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. In regards to the other backups, Jill Nabat was a card I was really close to cutting, because it's one of those cards where it's really useless in most matchups, but it's really strong if you're expecting like a lot of Fusoyas and like heroic Lulus, or just that kind of stuff, right? Just playing like backups that do damage, even like El Handlem as well, for example.
Yep.
So that's why I had a 2 off in there, because if I had 1, it would feel too inconsistent without a searcher when I really needed it. But otherwise, I would have absolutely loved to like cut that Jill Nabat for like Sages, for example, so that I can have more options to haste my lock.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So pretty much gone over the deck.
Yep.
Talk a little bit more about the event now. Swiss rounds. I think from memory, sort of looking, you sort of hung around the top tables for quite a long time, and I think you were the feature match, games. Like I think 3 rounds.
4 games.
4 games. Jesus.
So from round 3 onwards, so round 3, round 4, round 5, and round 6, I was on the stream table pretty much the second half of the Swiss rounds.
All right. What'd you come across in the Swiss?
So the first round I played against Mono Water. I think it was piloted by Ryan Coward. So he tried to like turn one Zidane me, and because he's playing Mono Water, he didn't have the haste. So I was okay to just sort of like let it sit there for a while, build a backup, throw a Glacier the next turn. And then it came to a point where he also like pitched his hand to play a Lena and bring back like a Zidane with no backups. So from then on, it was just like I dropped the leash in front of his Lena just to try and slow him down a bit, just so that he can't attack with Zidane, because I knew that he didn't have like 6 cards in hand yet. So he'd attack with Lena, I took a point of damage, and then he played like Vampire, trying to kill, stacking his Lena and getting rid of my leash so that his Zidane could swing. And I threw him the Glacier on that again. So he lost his hand, he lost his whole forward line, I've just got one backup, and then we came to a point where my hand was also empty, so we were just sitting there for 2 turns going like, draw 2, pass, draw 2, pass. yeah, just because we were just trying to rebuild our resources. But then once I got my field going on, like, he started dropping like Vikings to just sort of like build his cards back, but then at that point I started getting more, more of my burn cards, so like, I dropped the Duncan on the Viking, I dropped the Cloud on another Zidane, just stuff like that. It just keeps swinging. And because I also had the lock up and he couldn't like block the lock, so he was discarding cards from his hand like really like quickly. So he just didn't really have like much he could do in terms of like building his board. And then I eventually just sort of like walked over that one. Round 2 was Fire Water against Brandon, who also made top 8. So he tried to open with a turn 1 Zidane as well, and I went like, okay, yeah, you can take like 1 point of damage, and I'll play a Sid Rains. He tried to do like the Rain after that, and then I had a 1 backup up. So once the Rain declared the attack, I went, okay, I'll play a Glacier on the Rain before his the bot pump 2k minus 2k thing resolves.
Yep.
So then that gets rid of the Rain and a card in his hand, and then from then on he was just in the back foot, because like all he had was a Leela and a Viking on board, and he decided to swing for a couple more damage, and then from there I was just like, I'll drop this forward, I'll drop this forward, I'll drop this forward, and then he can't really swing anymore from there.
Yep, okay.
Yeah. Round 3 was also Fire and Water, that was on stream. Same thing, turn 1 Zidane, I responded with like a turn 1 Duncan, so he just sat there for a while. Wait, no, it was not a turn 1 Zidane, no, he started with a Marsh. I had to open with a Lasso because I had a really bad hand. It was like Phoenix, Celeste, Last World, VV, and Duncan. And I think people would think I'm crazy that I kept that hand, but because I kind of knew what I was playing against, so I decided to keep that hand because I knew like there was a turn 1 Zidane coming out somewhere, but apparently it didn't. I drew into like a Glacier, so it wasn't a backup, so I had to play the last one. And then James dropped like a Marsh on me, and I think he put a Red Mage on the Marsh trying to haste it, and then he forgot the last one was an 8k, so he just didn't swing. He dropped the Zidane on the next turn, and then he couldn't attack as well, so he just passed, and then that's when I would drop the Duncan, just to get rid of the Zidane. And I was just trying to poke with like Lasso, just like because I had Lasso Duncan for quite a while, so I was just trying to poke with Lasso, trying to get that 1 point of damage in. And at one point he dropped the field on me and even like Volkered my only blocker, and then he hit me for like 4 damage. So from 1 damage I went to 5 damage, and I just went like, oh yeah, like deck unlock mode. So just played the Dark Fina, brought in the Phoenix, killed the Volker, played the Sid Rays, killed the Viking. So just like how the rule stack thing works, you draw off the Viking and then you discard it. And I was really happy because he drew a Light Rain and then he had to discard it.
Yep.
Yeah. That was just really rough, yeah. Then round 4 I was playing Steven Deep, who also made the top 8. So he was playing the Ice
He was on Ice
Water
Water
6,
yep.
Yep. So in that game I forced like an early lock, and then I Belias the lock and attacked him as well, and he just had to discard 2 cards, so it's only like 2 backup. And I think from there it's just like he was just trying to build board, we were just trading stuff, and eventually he got to the point where he had no cards in hand. All he could do was drop a Setzer, devout back like a Struggle or something like that. So he had 2 blockers and 1 card in hand, and I just went just Setzer, another forward, and another backup that's down, and a card in hand, and I just went, okay, I'm at 4 damage. I'll play the Emperor and like Dalfreeze the Setzer. And he just couldn't really respond to that because I had like 8k guys over his 7k similar forwards because he didn't have the Duke Lock.
Okay.
Round 5 was against Adam Harris, who also made the top 8, so he was on the Mono Water Veritas list. That was just like a really grindy game. I just kind of outgrinded that until he decked out. Because all he could do was just like keep putting out Veritas and, you know, like didn't really have cards in hand. Because I think he pitched his hand like quite early at one point. He had a lot of forwards and he was just like trying to party and get over. And then yeah, it just slowly just sort of like removed his forwards. Just sort of like just trading my forwards with his guys and, you know, just keeping his board down until eventually all he had was like a Veritas. And then I would just pretty much keep the Veritas frozen and just do nothing. Just sit there and just wait until he decked out. Round 6 was against Colin Harris, who was on the Mono Lightning. He basically blitzed me from 2 damage to 7 because I didn't really have a backup line and I was just dropping forwards that just kept dying to like Edea, Veritas and stuff like that. And then so it's like I drop one forward, it dies to Veritas, I drop another forward, it dies to Edea, I drop another forward, it dies to Elsuit and Onion Knight, and then I was on 2 damage, and then he decided to just seal the game by dropping an Ilua. It just went like tack.
Yeah, yeah, I do remember seeing that turn. It was just
that was a really
all in.
So it was just a bit like anticlimactic because it was just like the repeat of the Nets for me, where I went up against Christopher Matiski in the last round of Swiss, and then I lost that. So it was just like I was at the top of the table, but then I was second place in the finals as well, because it just felt like it was just like repeating itself all over again.
Yeah, right. You feel like the second place curse is a thing, or?
I don't know. I just think it's just weird because I'll top the table at Swiss, but then I'll end up getting second in the whole thing because then at the final round of Swiss, I've also lost to someone who was X1. So yeah.
Yep. Okay. And then when we went to top 8, your first opponent, that was from memory.
Maggie.
Who was that?
Maggie. Yep.
Maggie. That's right.
Yeah. So she's on the Windwater Chocobos list. She pressured me early in game 1, got me to like 6 damage. But I think at some point I was just able to build board and I was just trading with her smaller forwards. So she had stuff like 8k ranges and stuff like that, and I had like an 8k lock, 8k Genesis. I would just trade those guys just to force her to like, you know, sort of like not keep that card in hand. So just traded with those, and I think at some point I was able to just sort of like just push through for a win finally. That was game 1. I almost lost that one because I was sitting on 6 damage, and I had removed an Adele that dealt the 6 damage to me, and I just went, I have to finish this game before the second Adele comes out. So that was my sort of, that's when I just started just really pushing and, you know, trying to get rid of her blockers and attackers and stuff like that, and just, you know, keeping stuff like Glacier in hand just in case she attacks and just all that kind of stuff. She also had the Yuna H. She was also playing the Yuna H, so that made like recursion a little bit harder because if I lost my lock, it just gets exiled. That was pretty much it. And then, you know, because it's a Chocobo stack, it's supposed to be just pressuring the early damage. So she dropped like 3 haste Chocobos in like game 2 or something, just 1 by 1, because every time she hit me with one, I'd flip like an Expert's cloud and say, yeah, I'll do 4k to this guy, or, you know, I play a Sid Reigns and kill one, just stuff like that. And in game 2, she tried to attack me with with a 4 CP Zidane, the legend from Opus 6 at 7k. And I had this 6k Sid Reigns, and in my hand was like a Goblin and a Belias. So I went, I'll declare the block with Sid Reigns, and then I'll play the Belias on my Sid Reigns. So my Sid Reigns became a 7k first strike. And I got rid of the Zidane, and she couldn't really attack with her Adele because she couldn't give it unblockable.
Yeah, because I think she tapped out at that point, hadn't she? I think she had like
she only had one
card in hand. Yeah.
Just 1 card in hand, yeah. And then that's when I just went attack with Lock, attack with Genesis, attack with Sid Reigns, and pass, right? And if she got a 6 damage, she couldn't really put out another blocker. She tried to go for resistance, and I ran. I have a Glacier in hand. Yeah.
Oh, it was punishing.
Yeah, that was just really rough for her. I think she got me to about just 3 damage or so. I think that game. I think the top 4 game was against Colin Harris. So He gave me a trouncing again, game 1. I just went, I think this is probably a repeat of Swiss. I'm probably just gonna lose here. And then game 2, I somehow stabilized at 6 damage taken, and he was at 0. It was just like, I dropped the cloud, I actually built myself a 10 and killed another forward. And I think from there, I just sort of just started coming back. And I was just like, I had the lock, I had the Genesis. I was just trying to force him to discard cards from hand. And then on the final game, it was really rough for him because...
Yeah, I think I saw it looked like it was, first turn Zemus.
No. First turn was a Veritas, an Idea, and 3 Ramus.
Yeah, that's right.
So he was like, I didn't know what I was going to play. So he played the Veritas and passed. And then from then on, I just basically kept he poked me the Veritas for 2 points of damage. Couldn't play anything for 2 turns, so I just went, alright, I'm just gonna freeze the Veritas with like Celes, Genesis, Kuja, and whatever, and then it get to a point where he's on 6 damage and all he has is just like a Lulu H. So he just plays like a Black Mage on my lock, uses the Lulu H to stack the Black Mage to deal 5k to the lock, he says, just in case you have an unblockable, and I went, okay, so in my hand I had a Meave and a Celeste. So I just went on the next turn, I just played the Meave, tossed the Celeste to search for a vein and said, like, do you have a response? Because all he had was Veritas, yeah. So that was game. Finals game, I don't really want to talk about it. I just got crushed by a mill deck. Just lots of removal. Yuna H. I don't think there was anything I could have done against that one. I think I was actually lucky to just win 1 game. So, that's that. I'll take that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sort of, by the looks of it, like, it's just so hard to interact with that deck sometimes. It's just because you try and build a bit of board presence and it just seems to run just all the removal. And before you know it, you try and build up your back line and then he's got his set up by then and then he's just milled you out before you can even do anything.
Yeah, because the problem with, like, going up against that deck, so my deck is not made to go up against that kind of deck because the average CP cost of my forwards is like 3 or 4. So that means that depending on how my backup line goes, at the end of the turn I can really only put out like 2 forwards at one time, and his removal is a lot more efficient as well. So he has like board clears, he has single target removal, and then at some point he just slowly just exhausts you out, and when you don't draw the forwards, that's just when you really just lose a card from there, from the mill. There's really not much you can do because you can't really recurse your stuff as well because they're all exiled. You don't have any break zone trigger effects, just all that kind of stuff. So, I figured like the only way for me to actually beat him was to go hard and aggressively discard cards in his hand. But really like there's that, or just dying to X-Burst and all that just kind of stuff. So once you get the Yuna H, I just go like, that's when the game's over. Because basically everything just dies for free.
Yep.
Yeah. So there's that one, and I think that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was last round.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, there's a very, very odd deck to see out there. And
yeah, definitely. I'm sure the internet is gonna have a field time with it because it looks so exciting and refreshing. I think I've seen other people who said they've tried it already and they said it just feels so disgusting that they loved it. So, well done, Junchi, well done.
All right, we'll probably wrap it up there, Julian.
All right, no worries.
All right, and congratulations again, and
thank you.
Thanks for having a chat to us, and enjoy the rest of your Easter weekend.
Yep, you too. Thank you.
All right, catch you later.
All right, see ya.